Hi, folks. Hello, it's Ted. I'm back. Um, Today, I'm actually continuing back again with more live streaming about this game that I'm making, Rogue Deck Builder. Um, I actually have a pretty important milestone to announce with the game. Um, I have put the game up on itch.io, so you can actually play it. Now, I'm going to have a bunch of caveats or a bunch of things to say about whether or not that is a good thing. Um, Frankly, I'm a little bit embarrassed about the game, but I think that's actually okay. So here it is on itch.io on my itch page, Rogue Deck Builder. If I go into can I go into my analytics for the game? I've gotten a few downloads already, not like a lot, obviously. Um, a few views. So just usually just putting something up, you'll start getting downloads on it. And then I can also see kind of where my downloads are coming from. Most of it is actually coming from Twitter at the moment. Some of it's coming from itch.io itself. But yeah, what I wanted to do is kind of just spend this stream talking about um, when when do you put a playable demo out? Should it be public, right? Should it be something that, um, like, how good of a thing should it be before you start to put it out there in the world, right? What I would say is the only reason that I've even put this demo out on itch.io is because my brother wanted to play it. My brother called me on my birthday and he's just talking to me and he's like, "So what are you working on, Ted?" And I was like, telling him about the game, and then he's like, "Oh, can I play it?" And I was like, kind of got me thinking. I was like, "Well, actually, there's really wouldn't be any reason why he shouldn't be able to play it." Um, there's a lot that's I don't think totally done, or well, obviously it's a prototype. There's a lot of it that I think is not ideal, right? I think it has a lot of balance issues. I think the game itself is actually very difficult to play. I think it has problems with a lot of UX kinds of problems. So things like there's really like the cards don't have any descriptive text, so it's not totally clear what the different turrets do. Also, there's just not much content in the game, so a much more fully fleshed out version of the game would have a lot more content in it. It would have more of the different kinds of turrets, more enemy types, more different play styles to it. But with all of that said, there are some positives in its court. One of them is it actually can be played. Unlike a lot of other kinds of um, sorts of things that a lot of game developers will do. Where they just make like a technical demo of the game, right? Or they are working on their engine, or they're just doing like procedurally generated artwork or any of that stuff. This, on the contrary, even though it is a rough prototype and it doesn't have much polish and it doesn't have much content, it actually can be played. Um, it it has a start and it has an end, right? Like a roguelike, it gets progressively more difficult over time. You can keep playing it up to a point, and then usually, what ends up happening with me is I play it up to a point, and then the enemies become overwhelming, or um, I get a bad start, or eventually, like some enemies, like, "Hey, how's it going?" They'll spawn into they'll spawn into a resource or something, and then they get stuck, and so there's like problems. Inevitably, if you play this game long enough, there are problems. It'll start hitting some bugs, which is to be expected for an early prototype. But that, I think, is not necessarily a reason to stop putting that out. And so I guess or to just not put the game out to get people's initial impression, to get feedback on it, to see how it performs, even on just a website like itch.io, right? So what are you looking for in some of this early feedback, right? What I would say you're primarily looking for with early feedback from a game is there anything in this game that early on stops people from playing it, right? Do they play for a little bit and then is there something that just confuses them so much that they just stop playing, right? You're definitely looking for that kind of thing. You're also looking for sort of like curb appeal, right? So what do I mean by that? You're looking at, if I put this up on a platform like itch.io, how might it compare to other sorts of projects that I presently have on this platform, right? And that's kind of more of like a long-term thing. So, and it's also something that you can't really know until you have a lot of different types of games or like game demos that you're putting out on a platform like this. So I've got this Cove Kid, that's like this other puzzly kind of game that I made a while ago. And what I can do is I can just kind of look at my analytics for it, over a long, long period of time. I can just let's just look at my analytics for the last year, okay? And what I guess, actually, this doesn't really differentiate it much in terms of, well, no, it would. Okay, so I even have like older projects. I've got Cove Kid and Moose Solutions, two different projects. And then I look at like how many views and how many downloads did they get. And what's interesting is like their same genre, right? Puzzle game, slightly different because like one of them is a puzzle platformer, another one is just a straight up Sokoban puzzle game. But the views are roughly on par with one another, right? And then Rogue Deck Builder just came out, and so I wouldn't be able to compare it really to the same cohort. Although maybe if I did like maybe if I had like a month of data and I could look at it, then I would be able to really tell, okay, actually, whoa, really? This is always wild to me that like I have things that, are these like prototypes of games and like they get like 12 downloads randomly. I didn't even know that, so that's interesting. But like I've got games that they get a certain amount of views, just like small amounts of views every day, right? And I can sort of start to track all of that, and I can look, kind of like long term through my analytics. I can actually figure out roughly how things are doing in comparison to one another. And basically, what I would say is like you want to kind of keep your eye out for just a total outlier. Something that maybe you've got like 5 projects going or like 10 projects going, whatever. You want to look for that one that's like 10 times more popular than all the others, right? And the kind of thing that sucks about all of that's like, this is, okay, so like, like when I go to my cardiologist, he always gives me like news that I don't want to hear. I'm in good health, but like sometimes they'll be like, Ted, you don't want to hear this, or you're not going to like this. So here's the thing you're not going to like. What you're not going to like is you just have to make a lot of games to be able to even get good numbers on any of this stuff, right? You're just going to have to make a lot. You're not going to be able to, if you've got like one game or 2 games, you're not going to be able to really kind of compare them against each other and figure out, okay, which of these is like really, got a strong, yeah, okay. So here's a comment. Yep, experience is the byproduct of failures. Yeah, and I don't even know that. I guess I would say failure is a pretty strong word. I get where it's coming from, right? Because we recognize that the product itself would fail in the marketplace, right? We recognize that it's not doing well for whatever reason, right? It's not popular, right? But I would also sort of say, if you've been prototyping in the way that I've been kind of showing you how to prototype, or in the way that like say Jonathan Blow prototyped Braid, or in the way that Carl Zielinski prototyped Cat and Onion. Um, I don't think that your expectation should be that if you spent like a month or two or maybe even 3 months on something and then put it out and it didn't get good reception, that you failed. What I would say is that that's just the normal creative process, right? Like what you did was you created a prototype, you explored an idea for a period of time, and you put it out, and whatever that thing is, it's going to be as popular as it can be, right? And all you're doing is you're just kind of collecting data on that thing compared to other things. You're seeing, okay, how much more popular is it? What sort of problems do people have when they play it? So if anybody, so another thing too is like I put this demo out yesterday and I got a tweet on my Twitter, and someone said, let's see, what did he say? Okay. Hi, Ted. Thank you for posting an early version. This is Rasul. I think he'd be comfortable with me saying this. Thank you for posting an early version of the game. Was excited to try it out. Unfortunately, could not continue to play because didn't figure out how to use the repair feature. Didn't work. Also, for some reason, everything's too big. Okay. Like, I think a lot of people, when they get feedback, their initial inclination is to be like, oh no, like he didn't, like he had a problem. But like what you got to do is kind of like turn your mind in a different direction and be like, hey, like somebody cared enough to actually play my game. Like that's great news. And not only that, not only did he play, like he's actually like a good enough person that he took like his precious time, his like most valuable resource, and he wrote something to help me out, to tell me like how I could improve this, you know? And so now all I get, all that you would do is if somebody said, somebody tried to play your thing and like gives you feedback, you just be like, okay, well, all I got to do now is just like fix this and then give him a better version that he could play and then see what he says, you know? I think that's just kind of like the positive way to look at any of this stuff. And the thing is, like, anytime you put something out there, it's just going to be true that there will be people people are going to have problems with it because people have like all these different computer setups, right? They've got Windows, they've got Mac OS, they've got Linux, they've got all these different screen sizes. And if you were being too perfectionistic about your prototyping process, like if you were trying to account for all the different stuff that people are going to have or different setups that people are going to have, you would never actually prototype a game, because you wouldn't be focused on the actual gameplay. You would just be like, responding or you would just be trying to like, make sure everything is just right before you put it out. I prefer instead just put it out. And then when people say things or like they try it and they have problems, then like fix their problem, right? And then just kindly like come back to them and be like, okay, thank you so much, for your feedback, and here's a build that fixes your problem, and then just keep going, right? And if they play again and they get stuck somewhere, or I gotta tell you, like for like so many of my different games that I've got, for Moose Solutions, I got pages and pages and pages of feedback on that game. And I am so happy for the people who took time out of their busy lives to actually tell me what is wrong with my game. Like that is the greatest thing for you as a developer. So, try and anticipate things. Obviously, if your game is like crashing or whatever, like don't put it, if it's got like, problems, immediate problems that you're experiencing, like, yeah, obviously don't put it out. But, I think that there can be almost too much of a wariness to put yourself out there. And the thing is that most of the time, it's not like there's like some official person that's like, looking over my itch.io with a monocle and being like, this Ted, he'll never make it, oh, this like, what kind of crappy prototype is that, and it's just not like that. If anything, most of the time your problem is going to be that there's just not enough people paying attention to your thing. that you just can't get enough traffic to the page. And actually, that's a good thing to know because um, if you're having a hard time getting traffic to it when it's a prototype, or even like when even early on, or like let's say that game concept doesn't do much better than say any of the other ones that you've tried out, then surprise, surprise, guess what, my friend? When you take that game and you go and you put it on Steam, how much better do you think it's going to do? Right? Now, there's things that you can do to kind of like try and zhuzh up the marketing, right? And you may want to do that if you think that you've got something. But what Chris Zukowski will say from howtomarketagame.com, he'll say that there are games that just have what he calls the magic. And if the game has the magic, then marketing will certainly accelerate the spread of that game. It'll make it more likely to become more popular. But a game that does not have the magic, there is no amount of marketing that you can do to make people want to play that more. You can kind of try, but it's sort of like pushing a boulder up a mountain. You know, it's the tendency is that it's going to want to roll back down. And so part of the reason that you put stuff out early on is to even if you know that it's not a good prototype, even if you know that it's got problems, and we'll play this game in a little bit. I'll play it just so you know, you can see what the prototype currently, like the state of my first prototype, right? You'll actually be able to see it. If you kind of know what sorts of problems it has, put it out anyway. You know, because what you're trying to see is, okay, how far do people get? How long do they play? How engaged with it are they? You know, some people might, if you've really got something, people will continue to play it in spite of its problems, in spite of its flaws. So that's definitely something to look for. And then that graph of like, you know, you'll probably start getting a lot more comments on it. You'll probably start getting a lot more traffic on it. You'll see people just kind of like playing it in their spare time, even if you didn't tell them to play it, right? So it's I think once you have a game that's basically got most of the basic gameplay is in there. There's a loop of some kind. You know, in Moose Solutions, that was a puzzle game, so the loop was a single puzzle. In Rogue Deck Builder, the loop is building your deck and then defending it. So you have like a build phase and then a defense phase. That's the loop. Once you got the loop in, and you've got some like basic like start condition and failure condition, like lose or death condition, you can put that out in front of people and see what they think. And you'll start collecting a bunch of feedback on it. I think that's a good thing to do. And you can always update it based on the things that they say, right? Or even things that you feel would make the experience better, right? So that's kind of my spiel. And, you know, even though I've spent like a few months on this particular game, it is entirely probable, in fact, more likely than not, that I will decide not to go ahead with putting this game on Steam, right? Because what I'm looking for is like, I'm looking for a live one. I'm looking for something that like really sparks people's interest. And I do not consider it a failure to try something out and put it out there and see what people think. I don't think that's a failure. What I think that is just gaining more experience, as you said. So with that, let's play the game. Welcome to Rogue Deck Builder. I changed a few things about the game since I last played. There are 3 different resource types now. So we've got these pink rocks, okay, and then we've got these red rocks, and then we've got the blue rocks. In a much more polished version of the game, obviously these probably won't just be rocks, but what I like about having them as the rocks is they all look like a resource, right? So they all look the same. They're all kind of used similarly. It's like similar design language, and more importantly, they're also colored in a way that corresponds to the cards that you can get that use them. So I've got this starting location. I've got my player. Now, right away, there's not much that I can build, right? I can build a repair bay or I can build a turret. And those are all very useful things. But so a turret will start shooting things, and then a repair bay will actually grant me 1 repair per turn, and that I can use to repair post holes. What I found in playing this game is that usually if you're more aggressive with building your deck from the beginning, then you tend to reap more rewards later on. So usually what I like to do is, there's a few things I could do. What I would probably want to do is get this resource early on, and then probably also get this event early on, because that will stack into a bonus that I can use later on. So I think what I'll probably do is get these, and then once I do that, I'll be pretty close to this card. I'll probably pick up that card. And what I'm hoping will happen is that that card will have something that I can use to defend the deck a little bit better than otherwise. So that's what I'm going to do. And one thing I've also kind of found is a little bit of a better strategy is to lay the post hole and then do the joist, because it's a little easier to defend, because then I don't have like a post hole necessarily all the way out here. I've got something that for at least for a few turns, it's a little easier to defend this, because you can see how far I can shoot. My shooting distance is actually pretty limited, right? So here comes some guys. Here we go. All right, so I survived that wave. Now, remember earlier I was kind of alluding to like a loop of play, right? So that's a loop, right? So here we go. I'm going to put down this joist, and then I'm going to put down this post hole, and I'm going to do another joist here. And then I put that there. And I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to joist it. So on the next turn, I'll be able to do a deck panel, and then I can walk over and get those. So here comes some guys. They're not going to like me, with this deck. They're going to be like, oh, here we go. I got to repel those guys. It's getting harder, you can see. You don't really have many turns to kind of like make it good, you're really pretty limited there, but that's okay. I can put a deck pin on. Okay, now what's my event? I got 4 energy. That's great. So I got 4 additional energy that I can now use to go and get this card here. I think I just want to grab the card as quickly as I can, because if it has something valuable in it, that's going to be very helpful. Oh, actually, I might be able to. Here we go. Okay. This turned out to be a pretty good turn. I actually got a nice boost there with the extra energy, so I was able to go get that card. This kind of game, as in, say, it's actually kind of similar to like Civilization in some respects, because the earlier you get resources, the earlier they can start to be accumulated, and you can use them to advance yourself. So this game, in terms of strategy, has a big bias towards the early acquisition of resources. The earlier you can start farming resources, the better off you're going to be. So it's actually very important to do that. Okay, and then I'm going to place a deck panel. And now I can go get this. What do we got? Oh, no. I got cards that kind of suck. They suck because I can't really use them unless I have this pink resource here. So this is a better turret. It's a fire rate height turret, which means the fire rate goes up as a function of the height of the deck panel that it sits on. I'm actually going to grab this because I have this resource here. But what sucks is I can't, like, I have to acquire this resource in order to actually start using it. And it's going to be a while until I can really get that. So my primary thing I need to do right now is at the cost of everything, I need to acquire this pink resource here. So I'm going to do that. And I'm really not going to, I'm not going to spend a ton of effort like defending or like putting other things in the deck. I'm gonna spend the early parts of the game just defending the deck myself, knowing that I want to kind of like maximize my usage of it. So I got these guys here. Okay, got this guy here. Yep. All right. So I really want to, if I can get this down as quickly as possible, that would be great. And I can incorporate this resource into my deck. I do not have enough energy. Okay, so next turn I'll be able to do something, I guess. So my initial impression now, or my impression of this game is it's pretty freaking hard. It's like, it's a difficult game to play well because you're under pressure. You don't have like a lot of time to get the right stuff, and then the right stuff that you get more by chance. And so I don't love that. There's not like a ton of strategies that allow you to, it's a hard game. Okay, so finally I'm starting to acquire this resource, right? But it's going to take a few turns, 2 turns until I can buy one of these, which is a bit of a penalty, but that's kind of the name of the game. So what do I do in the meantime, right? Well, I better darn well protect this, which means I need to repair it, which means I need to have a repair bay so I can start acquiring some repairs, right? Repair charges. If I don't, I'm kind of in trouble here because if this post hole goes away, then this deck section collapses and then I lose the resource and I have to rebuild the resource again, which is going to cost a lot of energy, and I only get 7 of that per turn. So it's like kind of tough, right? So we'll see what happens. But if I can maybe defend the deck for like a few more times, then I'd be okay. It's just going to be difficult. No. That guy's got to go. So does that guy. Crap, I lost that. That sucks. Okay, that's probably going to go. And also notice like my hearts have gone down, so I started malding. That's another mechanic in the game, is the malding. So, and now I didn't get my resource that one turn because they destroyed the deck that it sits on. Since I'm already acquiring repair charges, I guess what I will do is place a turret down here. Oh crap, now I just screwed myself. It's going to be a while until I get this resource. Okay, now if I spend 3 at the start of the next turn, I'll get this, but... So, there's a lot that's not good. Obviously, there's a lot in this prototype, a lot of things that I think suck about this game. It's just brutally, punishingly difficult, and then a lot of the difficulty comes from the randomness, not necessarily like your ability to play. Just based on like how the dice were rolled in this game, I am now accumulating this red resource, and I can't do anything with it, right? Because I don't have any cards that use it. So maybe something that would be useful to have. So first of all, I think you should be able to get more cards. I think that's going to be valuable. But I also think it would be nice if there were some ways to exchange resources for another, or maybe there's something where like I can burn one resource and exchange it for energy, right? So that way I'm not completely wasting this resource. But maybe what it is it's like you can burn the resource, but it's like a high cost. So maybe it's like 2 rocks for 1 energy or something like that. And so it's like not something you would want to do because it's inefficient, but at least you're not just like, this isn't just going up and up and up and you're not getting anything for it. Because I think most people would sort of be like, ew, that sucks. So that's a possibility. Like maybe there's something you can build that lets you trade rocks for energy or something. Um, and then maybe later there in the game, there's something that like lets you not only lets you do that, but maybe it improves the efficiency of it. So there's like better versions of it where you could do better trades of that rock for energy, right? That's a possibility. So I'm thinking there's more things that the game kind of needs, but I'll keep playing because I'll play all the way to the end just so we can have some like closing thoughts. But I'm guessing I'm not going to last very long because these guys are going to get all my valuable stuff, and they're going to, it's a little bit better now that I can kind of that, or I'll get my deck panel will like collapse underneath me, and so that this guy's like, the problem is I've got to like stop them from destroying my deck panels that I'm standing on. Oh crap! So I lost that. All right. This is proving to be difficult, and if I do that, I'm going to lose my repairs. So I better be ready for that. This is tough. I'm not gonna lie. It's just tough. Okay, now I can do a deck panel. Okay, so I get that back. Yay, but how long is it gonna last? And now I've got this one thing that I can't really spend much on. This is tough. This is genuinely a very difficult game to play. And over the coming weeks, I'm gonna have to put more effort into things I think that will make it not quite so punishingly difficult all the time. So, and what I think that is just like a lot more features that are many more different cards, more in the way of balance. But I guess the reason I put this thing out right now was because I just wanted to see like, okay, yeah, too much deck destruction, you are malding, press R to try again, wave count 8. So if too much of the deck gets destroyed, you lose hearts, or you basically start malding, mad balding, and then you lose. So that's what happened here. I lost. And that's kind of I could play again, but I probably will lose. So, okay. Now I'm going to read some more comments. Here's one. Eskil Steenberg said in one of his videos to really think about player feedback. I don't know the exact quote, but players were complaining about too much smoke in the game. He added more, and the players were happy. So the root of the problem wasn't the amount of smoke, it was something else. That's great. I love that. I would actually like to hear sort of actually more about that story from him, because it just sounds kind of interesting, right? Like, how is it that adding more smoke would have solved the problem, right? So maybe it was just like the context of it, or like how they were. I'm not really sure, but that is really funny. Yeah, a lot of times when people complain about something in your game, the feedback isn't necessarily. It's like I wouldn't never take feedback too literally. A lot of times, what you got to do is just try and like poke around and think about what other things might be causing people to think that thing. What is it about? What might make someone say that? So okay, this is part of his how to come up with ideas video. Yeah, and then I've got another comment. One small feedback: wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make more sense if it was on water? Aren't decks built on water? Um, yeah, and these are things that I honestly don't know what the average sort of, or how somebody, what impression somebody might get of a game like this, right? Decks, I think, are built on both. Uh, Docks are built on water, and decks are built on land. Usually, a lot of people, at least where I'm from, in the United States, like they have nice big decks, and on the back of their houses. Um, so I guess my initial thought was it would be on land, but what I did want to have at some point was some idea of different terrain types, right? So I was thinking that there would also be water tiles at some point, and that you could build your deck on top of the water tiles. Like it would be like a rogue dock builder as well. And there's some reasons why I think that would be a good thing. One of them has to do with certain kinds of bonuses that are applied to the turrets and a certain sort of strategy where once you get started with a strategy, it actually can become kind of the dominant strategy in the game. And so I'm I get a little bit concerned about about one particular strategy overriding all the others and sort of being the only thing that people do. Um, and so I want to kind of like stop that sort of thing from happening. Which I mean, roguelike deck builders of their own nature because of the randomness break that up quite a bit. But I don't want to be I don't want it to be like, oh, if I just get this one card and I just get this particular combination of things, then I can just do this like runaway thing. That is fun, but um, I don't want that to be like every playthrough. So having different terrain types can, I think, change that a little bit. So um, yeah, hopefully you can kind of see where the game is. I've got like a big list. I've got a big to-do list of different things that I'm considering here. So um, in addition to what I mentioned actually also on stream. So I mentioned that the game should have something where maybe I can trade a resource that I got. Actually, that lets you trade one resource, trade resources for energy, right? That way, if you happen to have a resource that's not really being used, you can at least get something out of it, right? So I think that would be valuable. Um, okay, another one. Here's a comment. It would be nice to be able to see the world when you're selecting a card. Hearthstone has a toggle button for this during the discover mechanic. Oh, I see. Okay, interesting. Yeah, yeah. So, um, right when you are presented with a card in this game right now, you're definitely you're just sort of thrown into that screen and you can't see anything else. You don't get the outside context, and you might be wondering, you might be thinking about what what card should I pick based on what I've got around me, right? Um, that's definitely something, and it becomes more and more relevant later in the game as you become more built up and more developed, right? Early in the game, perhaps not as much, but definitely later in the game, it's like a really big thing. Um, yeah, when you click the first post while creating a joist, it doesn't seem like there's any way to undo it. Even if you select another card and then go back to joist, the post is still selected. Sorry for QA dumping. No, these are all good things, right? And this is this is the sort of problem that you face when you make a prototype of a game, right? Is actually, even if you know all these problems, like um, even if you know that you have these, a lot of times I will know that there's actually a problem with, I would say that's like a UX problem, right? Like, also just some kind of undo feature is like a good thing to have generally across the board for a lot of these types of games, because a lot of people, they'll screw up something and then they want to undo it, right? And then the thing is, like, you don't want, especially if it's a really long kind of game like this is. Like, this is a very long type of game where a lot of those strategic decisions that you make early on very greatly affect or have an impact on how the game ends up towards the very end of it. And so if you don't have an undo feature of some kind, that just sucks, because like you could have been playing for like 10 hours, right? And then now all of a sudden you misplace something, or you misclick or whatever, and now your whole playthrough is screwed. So yeah, some kind of undo is really important. With this kind of game as well, you want the how far back you undo is this very important thing, because you don't want to undo. You don't want to like allow an undo past a point that generates past a point where like information is gained. So if, for example, a player picks up a card, that is they shouldn't be able to undo picking up the card, because picking up the card revealed information, and now they would have access. They'd be able to get the information, undo past the point where they got the information, and then be able to make different strategic decisions. That shouldn't be allowed, and in a lot of these types of games, that's not allowed. So slipways, for example, anytime you send out a probe, yeah, the joist isn't even really an undo; it's more of a deselect. Yeah, and I completely agree. It should just deselect whatever it is that you had selected. So definitely do that. That's easy. But I still fundamentally think that the better experience here would be just a across the board undo feature at some point. Because, and actually what I'm guessing is if this game starts to get a lot of players, at some point people would complain about that. And actually, if I've got like hordes of people complaining about the lack of an undo, that, in my opinion, is a very good problem to have. So you have to be able to prototype things far enough to know that, or even just be aware of these kinds of problems, right? And just like be okay with knowing that the game has those problems, because what I really should be focusing on first, I think, is mostly like the gameplay problems. Mostly things like this game is kind of too punishingly difficult. It's kind of like it doesn't have enough options in the way of like different things to do. There's not really enough like enemy types, like all of those kinds of problems I think need to be fixed first. But then another thing too is what you might be at this stage of the game, after putting a demo out and seeing how it responds, it might you might just note that people aren't that interested in the game, right? And so that's another problem that's just very difficult to solve, right? No amount of improving the gameplay, or, well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's that whole curb appeal, right? You're kind of trying to see if it's got curb appeal early on, or at least like comparing it to other types of games. And if it can't really hook people, then there's no point in trying to go and implement a lot of these other kinds of nice things, right? And that's one of the things that you're kind of looking for early on. So if my brother's going to try and play this game, I don't know how far he'll get. I don't know if he'll just like, get angry and confused and, stop playing. And I don't know if the same thing will happen with my friends, but it would actually be a very good thing if I got a lot of players who were angry at me because the UX is crap. Like that would actually be, or if I got a lot of players who are angry at me because the game isn't balanced, or because there's not enough different things, not enough content, right? Part of what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to see if that will happen, right? Because if that happens, that's actually a very good sign, because those are all problems that I can solve, right? The kinds of problems that I cannot solve are people go to the page and they're just like, man, this looks stupid, or they, maybe play for a little bit and they're like, this is dumb. I don't like this. This sucks, or whatever, for whatever reason, or, haha, funny joke, but stupid game. Whatever reason, it fails to kind of keep people interested. If I'm getting signs of that, then there's really no amount of continuing the project that that fixes that, right? Like if somebody just doesn't, like, they look at the page and they're not even like interested in the game, or they look at the screenshots and they're not interested in it. I can do things to improve the artwork of the game, right? I can like give it an aesthetic lift that might help, and that definitely can help. But if there's just people not responding to it so much, or not engaging with it, there's really only so much that improving the gameplay, improving the UX, putting all this stuff, there's only so much that's going to actually fix it. People are only as interested as they are interested, and that's just kind of like the case, unfortunately. So, but I think with this game, I will probably continue to at least put more and more content into it, while I'm sort of collecting data on what people think about it. And then maybe after a few months, maybe after I work through a number of these different problems, I'll make some kind of decision of, do I continue it, or do I, not, do I continue to play it? Do I continue to do it or not? Oh, that's interesting. So another bit of feedback. Seems like a turret's collision keeps existing after it's destroyed. Okay, I will fix that. Actually, I'll just put all these things down on a list and I'll fix them. And then what I will do is put up another build that that just addresses all of that. So if all of you are actually playing the game and you run into a number of problems, or you have certain thoughts about different things, just, you can write them down. You can send me an email at tedbendixson@me.com. That's my email address. But I've already noted these things, so I will do the joist deselect feature, and then I will also do the making sure that after a turret gets destroyed, its collision is wiped out, so we don't have that anymore. But if there's really anything else that as you're playing you run into, just shoot me an email. I will fix it and put up another build, and we'll just kind of see how that goes. But yeah, really kind of coming full circle, and I just feel happy to put this out. And I'm going to put this stream up just as a way to like tell people, hey, here's kind of what you do. Here's sort of when you decide to put something up. I usually tend to wait until someone, until I get in a conversation and someone asks me if they can play my game. The game has to be like up to a point. Like it's got to be built up enough. It's got to have a main loop. it's got to have some kind of like win condition and lose condition, right? Um, and that's about enough to put that to put it on some kind of platform. And don't put a crap ton of effort into it, like this. Like, I didn't spend a ton of time like thinking about, oh, what's the icon gonna be, or like, what's I all I did is I just took the current game and I just threw this thing up, and I took some screenshots of the game so people could see what it is, and then I wrote a very long description of how to play it, and that's honestly that's enough. And because I do work on both Mac OS and on Windows, I provided a Windows build and a Mac OS build so that both people on the different operating systems can play. I didn't notarize the Mac OS build, but if enough people complain about it, I will. Notarization is basically this thing that you can do with Apple where you make them recognize that you have, like, it allows for distribution of apps outside of the App Store so that people can play it. It'll install on their Mac machine without any like complaints. So if enough people are like, um, okay, so yeah, here's a comment. Made it to wave 14. Feels like that's probably pretty decent. I don't know what that means. um, yeah, I mean, so you made it up to a point where that's good. I mean, it means you didn't really have as many like crashes or problems that would prevent you from getting there, right? But the thing is that there's not really like a mid game and there's not really a late game, and so this game, you might be able to keep kind of playing and playing and playing, but hey, if given that I've put this game out in this state, if some people came back to me and said I made it to wave 14, actually that would be really good feedback for me as the developer, because what it means is I didn't lose them, right? I didn't lose them on the first wave or the second wave. I didn't lose them while they're trying to construct the deck. Like, that wasn't confusing, right? If they were just confused by that, they would have bailed. Was there enough interest to keep them playing past a few waves of the game, right? Basically, Tahita, you got to the part of the game where I myself, the developer, start to get frustrated with it because it doesn't have a middle. There's not many more cards to go and get. There's not some new direction to build up to, right? So that's about as far as the game goes right now. And it gets buggy after a point because like enemies spawn in a bunch of different places, and so the fact that you made it there is actually pretty good feedback. But again, I'll fix all the things that you ran into. So with that, I think I'll end the stream. If there's any more questions or anything else anyone would like to discuss, I'd be happy to talk about it. Maybe just throw out an easy mode where you get like 12 energy a turn. Yeah, actually, that would be a good idea. Um, Maybe even just bias the demo to being easy, right? Where you just get 12 a turn. Um, that's actually really simple to do. And so maybe like just have like a screen at the beginning where it's like easy, hard, and then the only difference is like um, is the amount of energy per turn. Or like maybe well, it's already hard, so I think we just have easy mode and hard mode. And yeah, and easy mode is like easy mode is you get 12 a turn, and then hard mode is you get 7 a turn. I like it. Yeah, that's so simple. Because yeah, easy mode maybe people can kind of explore a little bit more, but like that 12 energy a turn, like That's energy. I am noticing is kind of proving to be like the linchpin of the game. It's kind of the thing that the difficulty hinges on for the most part, because that's your ability to build more of the deck. That's your ability to build other structures. It really, if you can somehow improve your energy income in the game, there's so much more that you can do. And so I'll try that out. You know what? That's great feedback. Um, I will. I'll just put that in the game. You know, first thing first. It'll just say. It'll just be like a title screen. Rogue deck builder, easy, hard, pick, and then we just go from there. So these are all really great notes. I want to thank everyone for what you've told me to do. I'll just go do it, put out another version, and then we'll just go from there. So thanks so much.